I got a message from Michael Orlando Yacarino on Ko-fi sending a really nice gift of a donation to the show. And I said, you know what, since you donated, why don't I do a movie for you? I was impressed. They said it wasn't necessary, but if you want to do a few Jess Franco movies, don't threaten me with a good time, Michael. So let's talk Jess Franco. And a lot of people ask me, by a lot of people, like 10, ask me, I've never seen a Jess Franco movie. What's a good one to start with? So I'm loath to recommend movies to people that have yet built up a tolerance for movie drug. They'd be like me suggesting J&B to somebody that's never even had a beer. Most Franco, when it comes to movie drugs, is high-test black tar heroin. They only get weirder. Later in his career, the films achieve near murder drone-like levels of nothingness, bounce zooms into female anatomy that challenge her sanity, and synth scores that seem to drift off into ether like a Spanish fog or jazz, baby. Also known as Paroxysmus Sorcerer Angle, Black Angel, and Paroxysmus Quo un Bona Bravere per Amor. Paroxysmus Can a Dead Woman Live Again for Love? Venus in Furs has everything you want to see, but nothing really to do with the novel.
It started high on a lonely note. It all started that day on the beach near Istanbul. Or did it? It started the instant you saw her. Strange young musician, blowing high on a lonely trumpet, drifts from Istanbul to Rio de Janeiro, but he can't erase a vision of death and beauty.
Keep staring into space.
Even a love like he has never known or dared imagine can make him forget.
Tell me, how did she hook your mind? Just how? Tell me. Please show me. Let my hands be her hands.
As if an unworldly desire could create reality, his vision is real. His Venus in Furs is alive.
Who are you?
I don't know. Who is she? Tell me the truth.
I don't know. And I don't care.
She is Wanda. She is his Venus in Furs. She is alive. And the coat that covers paradise uncovers hell.
Venus in Furs will be smiling.
Did she return from hell to take her murderers back? Or was this hell?
I know you. I met you a long time ago. Together. We're united in death.
Who is this elusive Venus? Is she the sex symbol of a wild fantasy?
We escaped from the real world into a dream world that I never wanted to end.
Everything ended a long time ago.
Venus in Furs, a masterpiece of supernatural sex. A frightening trip into the unknown by the unknowing.
Venus in Furs will be smiling.
Imagine if Hitchcock made Vertigo, but cared more about nudity than the story. Lost Highway was a movie by Lynch that had trumpet blaring bleats in slow motion, and you put them together in a blender and threw acid in it. You're getting close to what this is. It's just have to get with the fact that sometimes Jess Franco seems like the best filmmaker ever. Other times you're like, has he ever seen a movie before? And I love that. This time it works. This is probably as perfect as he gets. As if 1,000 mustache Lena May obsessed glasses wearing madmen were all typing in the same room for 1,000 years. This is the movie they came up with. You know, some movies fight between style and substance. This movie finds substance being submissive and loving, while style edges it, treats it bad, calls it names. Art dealer Percival App, Dennis Price, living in the tax haven of Sark, making movies like Twins of Evil and 5 movies with Franco around this time. Photographer Olga Margaret Lee, who was in 12 movies with Kinski. And if anyone has a chance of getting into a better next existence or heaven, it's probably somebody that was in 12 movies with Klaus Kinski and depraved and devious playboy Admed, and that's Klaus Kinski, have whipped, assaulted, and drank the blood of Wanda Reed and leave her for dead on a beach while trumpet player Jimmy Logan watches. Wanda is Maria Rome from Franco's Eugenie, the story of her journey into perversion. And Jimmy Logan is James Darren, a former teen idol, whose song Addio Mondo Crudele was a huge hit in Europe. He's best known as Moondoggy in the Gidget films. Yes, Moondoggy is in for it. So when Wanda washes up on the beach somehow alive, can we blame Jimmy when he falls in love? Not even Rita. Barbara McNair from They Call Me Mr. Tibbs, the singer of Till There Was You. And how did she end up in a Jess Franco movie? Then her third husband was killed in a mob hit. She got busted for heroin at a Playboy club. No judgment. She can't take her mind off of the girl. So when you see a new woman gliding through reality and murdering people with her own theme song by Manfred Mann, how can you not fall in love? There are 2 other Venus and Fur movies, one by Joseph Marzano, another by Massimo Del Miano. But I really think they can't compare to this. I mean, does a multiple mirror version of An Angel of Death kill a perverted old man in those films? Empty beaches, rich colors, dead women rising from the sand to kill baby kill? Nope. To answer the question at the beginning of all this, I'd say this is probably the best overall Franco movie. I can also make an argument for Vampires Lesbos, which we've already covered. I get really emotional at the end of this movie and just spent. And, you know, like when you see like a cartoony critic just like, imagine that Orson Welles clapping in a theater, mem. That's me. I got problems. We talked Venus and Furs. Our friend Michael suggested Plaisir et Troyes. But with a name like Plaisir et Troyes, you'd expect it. It sounds fancy, doesn't it? How to Seduce a Virgin.
Hello, everyone. It's your spiritual guide, Carolyn D. Fonseca. I just wanted to tell Sam this was also released in America as Fun for Three, a title that does not at all prepare you for a movie about a libertine-styled countess who gets out of a mental ward and goes back to her very evil ways as she fixes her eyes on a pretty girl with the intention to destroy her after fully corrupting her body and soul.
Another Jess Franco tripping into the side as Countess Martine de Brezac, played by Alice Arno, emerges from a sanitarium 18 months after she castrated a man with no intention of giving up on the left-hand path, soon discovering a young woman who she wants to destroy, not just because she can. Yes, philosophy in the boudoir inspired many of Franco's movies, and this one, as they say, goes all the way to remake Eugenie, which had been a success for Franco before. The 31 Thinks could have been to make a more horror-themed version of the same story. Martine's husband, Charles, played by Robert Wood, soon joins her in the basement. A body is preserved at the exact moment of death. Shows him the girl they must corrupt, Cecile, played by Tania Buceller.
Oh, Sam, did you hear that, my favorite listener? Can he pronounce anything correctly? After all, he says wolf as woof. Woof, Sam. Woof.
Despite the warnings of the gardener Malou, played by Alfred Ballarou. God, it's hard enough to pronounce names. I'm diving into these. Cecile soon joins them in the sexual games of the Berserks, including the embrace of the mute girl Adele, who lives with them. And that's Lena Romay. She hasn't come up yet in this episode. Jess Franco's second muse, longtime love, future wife. The game has changed, however, as Adele, Cecile, and the Count end up draining the Countess for her life, leaving her as one more exhibition in the terrifying hidden room. As they leave behind their home, only Malou is left to stare at the cold, dead eyes of the lost lady, gives her for many decades. This original ending predated Maniac by several years, as observed corpses come back to life and attack the Countess. There's also a moment where Cecile is drugged and wakes up to become a mannequin, which is kind of weird as I keep watching Franco's filmmaking for, and you should too. Let's go into the next one, which this one doesn't even fool around with the title. I mean, Countess Perverse. I mean, what do you expect? Also known as Le Comtesse Perverse from 1975. Just looking at the poster for this gives me the excitement. So Harvey Dent said, I hate quoting modern movies, but he said, you either die here or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Lena Romay would probably agree, as she went from Sylvia the heroine in this movie to, in the remake, she is the villain in Tender Flesh. Sylvia is on vacation in the south of France and wants to meet up with a guy named Tom. It just so happens to work for Count and Countess Zarnoff. It's Howard Vernon and Alice Arno who like to play games with beautiful young women. Then they shoot them with bows and arrows and eat them. I mean, as you do, right? Anyways, There's also Bob, played by Robert Woods, and Moria Teninia Bucellaire. I still can't pronounce her name. Who procure young women for the Zarafa estate and are allowed to partake of the pleasures of the flesh. And yeah, they get to eat it too. There are some astounding locations here. The house was shot between two Ricardo Bofill Teller de Architecture designed structures. One's called Xanadu, which also shows up in She Killed in Ecstasy. God damn it, that movie. And Morello Roja. This has the production, as so many of the later shot on video Franco films are missing the lushness of his shot on film movies. There are also insert shots in some cuts of the film. Franco didn't intend for that to happen, to have adult inserts, but things happen. It's the kind of movie that Franco could, would, and did make over and over again. It works. Basic tale of the rich people hunting the lower rungs of society. It's always a great framework to hang a movie on. I mean, how many Most Dangerous Game movies are there? I have a letterbox list. There's a lot of them. Brutal Nights of Linda. Linda, how are your nights? They have been brutal, Sam. Oh, Linda, I'm so sorry. Otherwise known as the much nicer Hot Nights of Linda. Well, that sounds a little better, right? But this is all about Marie-France Bertrand, who's Alice Arno. Alice Arno, putting up with it in these movies. Goes to a small town to take care of the family of Paul Steiner, Paul Mueller, including his disabled daughter, Linda, Veronica Limera, who's been abused by her carnally obsessed sister, Olivia. Who else could play this role other than the doe-eyed Lena man? Credit to J.P. Johnson, a jazz pianist whose name Jess Franco appropriated to use in this movie. This comes from a year in which Franco made 13 movies. 13 movies. And he started and didn't finish 3 more. Of course, this Marie comes into this environment. There's sapphic encounters, mystery, mayhem, potentially murder. Also, Lena remained a banana, which is pretty much the most pure form of madness inside Franco's mind. I imagine he just said, I don't have to do anything for weeks now. I've done everything I can do. At one point, Olivia says, it's marvelous to live without a sense of time. And that's the most perfect way to describe a Jess Franco movie. There is no sense of time. And it's what it's like to be a character within one of these movies. You don't really have to do anything. Life does not come in fast. This is like a druggy haze. And that's what I'm looking for.
In 1973, Jess Franco was exceptionally prolific. This period is often noted for his transition into more erotic and sex and horror hybrid cinema, as well as the beginning of his long-term collaboration with actress Lena Romay. In 1973, he made A Virgin Among the Living Dead, one of his most famous works from this year, concerning a girl visiting her deceased relatives in a remote castle. Female Vampire, notable for being the film where Franco and Lena Romay reportedly fell in love. It exists in multiple versions, ranging from a straight horror cut to more erotic iterations. The Demons, a nunsploitation-style film set during the Inquisition. The Other Side of the Mirror, a surrealist psychological horror film involving a woman haunted by the ghost of her father. Also known as Maciste contre la Reine des Amazones, this is a blend of adventure and eroticism. Sinner, the secret diary of a nymphomaniac, a grindhouse drama exploring a woman's sexual evolution through a series of flashbacks. Kiss Me Killer, a remake of his own 1962 film, Death Whistles the Blues. Plaisir à Trois, a loose adaptation of the Marquis de Sade's work, reflecting Franco's frequent interest in the author. Maybe you heard Sam mumble about that movie a bit ago. La Comtesse Perverse. Though sometimes associated with 1974, production and certain cuts are often linked to the 1973 cycle. And he also talked about that one. Because Franco frequently shot multiple films simultaneously and re-edited them under various titles for different international markets, some of these titles may appear in filmographies for 1972 or 1974, depending on the specific theatrical release date in a given country. IMDb also claims that The Sinister Eyes of Dr. Orloff, El Misterio del Castillo Rojo, Relax Baby, Tender and Perverse Emmanuel, Quartier de Femme, Eugénie de Sade, and Un Capitán de 15 Años were all made in 1973. As Sam often says, who's to say?
in movies. I'm not going to lie to you.
Le château de Barna. La mort habite ses caveaux. Mais une vie nouvelle y sera engendrée par la créature de Cagliostro et le monstre de Frankenstein.
Erotic Rites of Frankenstein. Victor Frankenstein's dead. He was done his price. He was killed by an immortal wizard. Oh, God, just Franco. Caligostro, Howard Vernon, as always, and Melissa is bloodthirsty, blind bird woman, Annie Liebert. The metallic monster Frankenstein is torn between his master's killer and the daughter who has inherited his mantle, Dr. Vera Frankenstein, Beatrice Saone, shot in the same time and place as Dracula, prisoner Frankenstein. This is the kind of movie where the villains power their plans with the wet bodies of the young and beautiful because, well, they're perfectly willing to admit, along with their evil aims, they have no shame in enjoying a little bit of the violence. Actually, quite a bit of violence with their sex. The plan is to make a mate for the monster.
Hello, Carolyn again. This next section of the show is what it's like to be forced to talk to Sam in person. Sam has had many, many concussions, has worked in many high-stress jobs, and perhaps always has some level of narcotics in his system. So speaking with him is, well, he goes off on tangents. Here's one about Jess Franco and AI.
He would love, I think he really would love AI. And not because it would take away the art from him, but just because he could do so many more movies and visualize things so well. Is there a way to make AI an artistic tool? If there is, I think he would have figured it out. Or, you know, he would have just fed in Eyes Without a Face and just remade it 50 times. I mean, he already made it 20 times.
Because that's what we need, Sam. Jess Franco making AI movies about sparkling lady parts being zoomed into over and over again, while Casio jazz bleats and bloops all over the soundtrack. Back to the show.
Anyways, the plan is to find a mate for the monster. Who would be that person? Well, probably Madame Orloff. God, another Orloff in a Jess Franco movie? Britt Nichols, a.k.a. Carmen Yazalde, but the chivalrous Dr. Seward hopes to save the day. This is Jess Franco movie. I don't see that happening. So many questions. Let's hit them with the questions. Why is Frankenstein painted silver? Why is Caligostro has the polymorph power sheet of being near eternal, a mentalist, a maker of human-animal hybrids, a lover of BDSM and orgies, and a hypnotist, being him kind of supervillain that we need in our world. If this isn't the kind of movie Franco saw in his head when he watched Universal Hair movies, I mean, it has to be. He saw completely different movies than the rest of us, and he was like, I think everybody else was shocked when the Hammer movies came out. Just like, I can't believe how violent and sexy these are. And Jess Franco was like, they're not really that sexy. I think we can make them a little sexier.
Very sexy, yeah. Almost too sexy.
Anyway, erotic rights of Frankenstein. Who knew Frankenstein had some erotic rights? Shining sex. Lena Romeo was once married to actor Ramon Ardid, who had introduced her to Jess Franco, who was using him as still photographer in his movies, and having his wife increasingly appear in the role Soledad Miranda once had, that being the central focus of his camera, mind, and obsessions. After the death of Miranda, Franco was still grieving. Sure, he was married to Nicole Gertrude. He'd be married to her until 1980. He worked as a script consultant in his films. See, we're in a few of them. But the team of Franco and Romeo would soon grow from professional to something more after her marriage broke up in 1975 and ended in divorce in 78, even though her husband continued working with Franco until 1980. Franco and Romeo would form a team for 4 decades of work, living together from 1980 until her death. They were married in 2008. She'd appear in more of his movies than anyone else, and even as she ages, Franco never ceases to find her beautiful and explore it. It's a love story, man. It's very important to me. Sometimes the zoom lenses that feel, okay, kind of ecological, but who are we to put our hang-ups on their love? How rare is it that you find someone that you share such like-minded feelings about art and sex and life, and you stay with that person until you both are near death? That's romance. This time around, Lena's Las Vegas showgirl Cynthia is routine as impressed alpha, and her slave Andros, Evelyn Scott and Gutchard. This time, of course, this all leads them into bed. So, Alpha is far from beyond our pitiful planet, and the lovemaking closes with Cynthia being covered with a sparkly lotion that forces her to do their bidding, which goes from carnal acts to killing those that know too much, which includes several doctors, including Dr. Suara, who's Jess Franco, and a spiritualist, Madame Picame, Monica Swin. Can't imagine that this movie was once intended to play movie screens, places that become altars for the worship of Franco Foe Most Holy. I mean, his lover's sex displayed gigantic on screen, covered in glitter. Plot normalcy be damned. Franco's obsession beyond Romeo is always women who have the power to kill through physical, vampiric, or sexual means, empowered by the saline substance. Cynthia has become biblical verse for it, I am come a light into the world that whoever believes in me shall not abide in darkness. So as the word of the Bhagavad Gita is recited by Oppenheimer as he watched the death cloud he created take physical form, now and become death to destroy our worlds. Franco wants us to know that sex can kill. And it can leave a talkative young woman freely giving her body and transform her into a literal angel of death, using the life-giving power between her thighs to snuff out anyone that must be destroyed, that aliens have asked to be destroyed.
Sorry, Carolyn again. I think it's funny that Sam goes on and on about how he hates elevated horror. Yet give him a movie that's basically about the power of Lena Romay's coochie, and he waxes biblical and philosophical about it, instead of what the movie is for, waxing off. And as I always say, back to the show.
It doesn't make any sense. God damn, so what? The nuclear fission of the lust and love and obsession, eventually the lifelong partnership of Franco and Romeo would knock both their marriages to pieces. Probably wasn't easy for anyone that was around the boom to discover that kind of love. If the radiance of 1,000 suns were to burst into the sky, that would be like the splendor of God. Some says probably that's what their love was like to them. Do not be sacrilegious, but wasn't Jess Franco the most dangerous filmmaker? Didn't the Catholic Church warn us?
Hello, Ghost of John Carradine here. And I'm so moved by Sam's words that I'd like to give you a dramatic reading of a song by Led Zeppelin. Also, as is my custom, I am 3 bottles deep into some cognac. So please, indulge an old ghost. If the sun refused to shine, I would still be loving you. If mountains crumble to the sea, they will still be you and me. Kind woman, I give you my all. Kind woman, nothing more. Cold drops of rain whisper of the pain. Tears of love's lost in the days gone by. My love is strong. With you there is no wrong. Together we shall go until we die. My, 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 my. Happiness, no more be sad. Happiness, I'm glad.
Unlike some cultists, Franco and the entire world of worship with him. He was not holding anyone back to partake of what he saw as perfection, shining sex indeed. Severn is that one. You can totally get it. And then finally, I am down to just a few movies on the list. If I look through his, I have 177 of 197 films watched. I have a few blind spots. Rolls Royce Baby is one of them. A Virgin for Saint-Tropez. A Man, 8 Girls. Montes de Venus. Sexorcismas, which it really feels like just another cut of Exorcisto. Claire. Loa 2000. Trapped Woman. There's just a few. So close. If you have, look at my letterbox list and you say, are there any that I have that Sam is missing? If there is, send Sam these. It would really make him so happy. 1976's Doriana Gray. Oh boy. Who of all the Jess Franco actresses would play Doriana Gray? To guess Lena. She haunts a castle where her twin sisters, but under the care of Dr. Orloff in the asylum, but we never see it. Dr. Orloff never see her sister either. We do know they have a strange psychic connection. Turns out that she can't properly experience le petit moi, as they say, the orgasm, and her lovers end up taking the big sleep as a result of making love to her. That's what keeps both the sisters young, but it's the bliss and the feelings of life running out that are making the other sister even more unhinged, also known as Demarqués von Sade. This has Monica Swin as a reporter who figures it all out. Raymond Hardy's also in it. That's the name of Reme's husband at the time. Let that walk around your brain, because this entire movie feels like Jess Franco is like staring at Lena Reme with his camera, every zoom being a thrust, every long look at her body, a long sigh, either in his heart or probably loins, a union of the two of them making tender love through a glass lens. Rainbow in the skyline behind her, dead woman in the bathtub, multiple Lena's off into infinity. Also, this movie, very close to female vampire. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. There's no in between when it comes to the hardcore Jess Franco drugs. How many times could Jess make female vampire? Guess what? All the times. With the Gina Wilson. That is the goddess of unspeakable lust. Macumba sexual. She's Princess Ubongo, rising from the dunes of sand and remixing, redoing Vampires Lesbos by way of Warren of the Exorcist, even ending with Lena screaming, but in a way that makes this film its own thing. Is Ubongo even a real person? Is she just the ultimate fantasy of Lena and her husband, played by Antonia Mayans? A black goddess here to dominate them both, to raise idols worthy of worship, and by worship, I mean the biblical sense, in the way that Jess Franco means biblical sense. There's also the issues of identity we have to contend with. As Lena isn't even Lena here, we have to pretend to go along with the game. She's Candy Coster. When she has her little smile on her way down, she's Candy Coster. Just go with it. The powers of Wilson, Frank would say, she either had that night today, like she belonged to a world less perverted than her own. It's like, your world, Jess, everybody's world less perverted than yours. And while in life, she was goddess of men and a European film star, the truth is she wasn't born a woman. And even now, today, we're having trouble wrapping our head around that fact. Unable to admit that maybe everything can be beautiful and worthy of love, unless there's been some mystery about this fact. Lena would say, oh, she was definitely transsexual. Lena didn't mince words. There's also a fish lizard creature with a giant dick that keeps showing up. It's Jenny Hanover, a carcass. It's a Jenny Hanover, which is a carcass of a ray or escape that's been modified by hand before being turned into a mummified specimen. Franco remains, again, obsessed by the women. He's a coward to the cult would unlock some latent sexual power, which ultimately thrilled and terrified those caught in their grip. By those, I mean Lena Reme, who endures the journey and the relentless zooming of the man who transformed his fascination with her into an eternal love affair. Is there a Jess Franco cinematic universe? Yes. Proven fact. What's it have? Well, aphrodisiac gases, diamond thievery, Al Pereira, but sometimes not played by the same person, Lena Reme somewhere, disgraced men that have taken their entire family to an island where all there is to do is dream of escape. That happens in Munich Rojas, Baja Bianca, Hot Nights of Lunda, La Casa de Mujeres Perditas, diamond thievery, possessed spies, or exotic dancers who are spies. There is Dr. Orloff. There's Cogliostro. There's Machiste, however you say it, shows up several times. There are female vampires. There are multiple red lips. There's Kathy Coster and Lena existing in the same reality. The diabolical Dr. Z, which starts with Dr. Z dying. If you're a doctor with any degree of evil whatsoever, you're a friend or a pupil of Dr. Orloff, who even shows up in Faceless, or you're a rival of Dr. Orloff, and you're a multi-hyphenate, right? A Rita Blue and Blue Rita is a nightclub owner, an exotic dancer, a spy, a survivor of abuse who tortures men. And she's also rich. And also, in all these movies, we follow the rules of Russ Meyer that violence cloaks itself in a plethora of disguises, which is favorite mantle, remaining sex. Anyways, there's also governments that have decided that exotic dancers make perfect spies and are always given the most dangerous mission, like Moria in La Noche de los Sexos Abritos, who must solve the riddle of Nazi gold when she's not torturing her fellow dancers, doing floor work of the hood of a already crashed car. Amazing. You will be stunned by these films. I would say you should watch all of them and get back to me. Tell me what you thought. You'll probably say, Sam, why did you make me watch these movies? And I'll say to you, you should be so lucky to watch these movies. This has been BNS about movies. If you would also like to come on into that exciting Ko-fi and say, hey, Sam, here's some money. $5. I'll talk about a whole bunch of movies for you too. That's what I do. I will do it for free, but a little money's nice because then I just buy more movies and I talk about that movie. It's do more drugs so I can work harder, so I can do more drugs.